Napoleon Bonaparte, born on August 15, 1769, on the rugged island of Corsica, emerged from relatively modest origins to become one of the most formidable and influential figures in world history. His life and career, characterized by extraordinary ambition, unparalleled military prowess, and profound impact on both France and Europe, began in a context that profoundly shaped his identity and future. Napoleon was the fourth of 11 children born to Carlo Bonaparte and Letizia Ramolino. The Bonaparte family, of lesser Italian nobility, moved to Corsica, which was ceded to France by the Republic of Genoa just a year before Napoleon's birth. This moment meant that Napoleon was born a French citizen, but his Corsican heritage profoundly influenced his childhood and sense of identity. Napoleon's father, Carlo, was a lawyer and local representative at the court of Louis XVI of France. Despite the family's noble status, they faced financial difficulties. However, Carlo was determined to provide his children with the best education possible. This commitment led to the young Napoleon being sent to mainland France to study. Napoleon's early education began at the age of 9, when he was enrolled at the Collège d'Autun in mainland France. He later transferred to the military academy at Brienne-le-Château, where he studied for 5 years. Napoleon was known for his intelligence, determination, and sometimes difficult temper. His fellow students and instructors noted his intense focus and disciplined nature, characteristics that would later define his military career. The French Revolution, which began in 1789, presented challenges and opportunities for the young officer. The upheaval of the revolution dismantled the traditional structures of French society and opened doors to talented individuals, regardless of their noble birth. Napoleon, aligning himself with the revolutionary cause, quickly rose through the ranks due to his merit and military prowess. Napoleon's first significant opportunity came in 1793 during the siege of Toulon. Toulon, an important French port, was taken by Royalist forces and British troops. The young officer was appointed to command the artillery, and his innovative tactics and decisive action played a crucial role in the city's recapture. His success at Toulon earned him a promotion to brigadier general at the age of 24. Napoleon's reputation continued to grow as he demonstrated exceptional skill in various military engagements. In 1795, he suppressed a royalist uprising in Paris with ruthless efficiency, using artillery to disperse the crowd. This victory not only solidified his reputation as a capable and daring commander, but also caught the attention of the government, specifically the Directory, which governed France at the time. In 1796, Napoleon married Joséphine de Beauharnais, a widow 6 years his senior with 2 children. Josephine's previous marriage to Alexander de Beauharnais, a victim of the Reign of Terror, and her connections in Parisian society helped reinforce Napoleon's social position. Despite their tempestuous relationship, Joséphine played a significant role in Napoleon's rise, providing him with the social and political connections necessary for his flourishing career. In the same year, Napoleon was appointed commander of the French Army of Italy. His leadership during the Italian campaigns of 1796 to 1797 was extraordinary. Employing innovative tactics and quick maneuvers, he outflanked and defeated larger Austrian and Piedmontese forces. His victories in battles such as Lodi, Arcole, and Rivoli demonstrated his military genius and cemented his reputation as a formidable commander. Napoleon's success in Italy had far-reaching implications. This not only established him as a military hero, but also brought considerable wealth and territory to France. Furthermore, his administration of the conquered territories introduced revolutionary ideals and reforms, such as the redistribution of land and the abolition of feudal privileges. These actions endeared him to his troops and the local population, increasing his popularity in France. Napoleon's triumphs in Italy were accompanied by cunning political maneuvers. He established himself as a key political figure, carefully managing his public image and cultivating relationships with influential leaders. His field reports, written in an accessible and inspiring style, were widely published and read, increasing his fame and appeal among the French people. The Italian campaigns also revealed Napoleon's administrative capabilities. He negotiated treaties, reorganized territories, and implemented legal and economic reforms that reflected his vision of a modern, efficient state. His success on the battlefield and in governance convinced many that he possessed the qualities necessary for national leadership. In 1799, France was in political crisis. The Directory was increasingly seen as ineffective and corrupt, and the country faced external threats and internal dissent. Napoleon, upon returning from the Egyptian campaign, sensed an opportunity to take control. On November 9, 1799, he orchestrated the coup of the 18th Brumaire, overthrowing the Directory and establishing the consulate with himself as first consul. This move effectively made him the ruler of France. As first consul, Napoleon acted quickly to consolidate his power. He implemented sweeping reforms that stabilized the economy, simplified administration, and strengthened the military. The Napoleonic Code, a comprehensive set of civil laws, was one of his most significant achievements, laying the foundation for modern legal systems in France and many other countries. Napoleon's reforms extended to education, infrastructure, and public health, reflecting his vision of a modern state. His ability to combine military prowess with effective governance set him apart from other revolutionary leaders and consolidated his position as a prominent figure in France. Napoleon Bonaparte's appointment as commander of the French Army of Italy in 1796 marked the beginning of a series of military campaigns that would establish his reputation as one of the greatest military strategists in history. The Italian campaigns were a crucible in which Napoleon's tactical genius, leadership, and vision for political and social reform were forged and demonstrated to the world. When Napoleon took command of the French Army of Italy, he inherited a force that was poorly equipped, demoralized, and outnumbered by his adversaries. The army had been largely neglected and was stationed in the rugged terrain of northern Italy, facing the combined forces of Austria and the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia. Napoleon's first task was to reinvigorate his troops and restore his confidence. Napoleon had many skills. He began by meeting the immediate needs of his soldiers, ensuring they had adequate provisions and supplies. He inspired them with speeches that emphasized their role in defending the French Revolution and promised them glory and spoils of war. His charisma and direct involvement with the troops quickly earned their loyalty and respect. Napoleon also restructured the organization of the army, emphasizing mobility and speed. He innovatively combined infantry, cavalry, and artillery units into flexible, self-sustaining corps that could move and fight independently. This organizational change allowed for quick maneuvers and surprise attacks, which became trademarks of his strategy. In April 1796, Napoleon launched his offensive with a bold plan to divide and conquer the opposing forces. His strategy involved quick movements to isolate and defeat smaller enemy units before they could unite against him. The first major engagement of the campaign was the Battle of Montenotte on April 12, 1796. Napoleon's forces quickly defeated the Austrian troops, exploiting the element of surprise and superior tactics. This victory disrupted enemy coordination and set the stage for further successes. One of the most famous battles of the Italian campaign was the Battle of Lodi, fought on May 10, 1796. Facing a well-defended Austrian position on the other side of the Adda River, Napoleon carried out a daring attack on the Lodi Bridge. Personally leading his troops under heavy fire, he achieved a decisive victory. The Battle of Lodi has become legendary, enhancing Napoleon's image as a fearless and inspiring leader. After a series of victories, Napoleon focused on capturing the strategically important fortress of Mantua. The Siege of Mantua, which lasted from June 1796 to February 1797, was a prolonged and exhausting effort. Austrian forces made several attempts to relieve the fortress, leading to several pitched battles. During the siege, Napoleon fought and won significant battles at Castiglione, Arcole, and Rivoli. Each of these engagements demonstrated their ability to adapt and innovate on the battlefield. At Castiglione, he used deceptive tactics to deceive the Austrians. At Arcole, he led a dramatic and dangerous attack across marshes and bridges. Rivoli, perhaps most decisively, saw Napoleon outmaneuver and annihilate a superior Austrian force through brilliant use of terrain and rapid troop movements. Napoleon's victories in Italy had profound political and social ramifications. He not only expanded French territorial control, but also spread revolutionary ideals throughout the region. His administration of conquered territories introduced reforms that abolished feudal privileges, redistributed land, and implemented legal and educational changes. One of the significant results of the Italian campaigns was the establishment of the Cisalpine Republic in June 1797. This new state, created from conquered territories in northern Italy, was a client republic of France, governed by principles aligned with the French Revolution. It served as a model for the spread of republicanism and was a testament to Napoleon's vision of exporting revolutionary ideals. Napoleon skillfully used propaganda to improve his image and political standing. His dispatches and bulletins from the front lines were widely circulated in France, portraying him as a heroic and invincible commander. These reports emphasized his strategic brilliance and the righteousness of the French cause, increasing his popularity among the French public and political leaders. The culmination of Napoleon's Italian campaigns was the Treaty of Campo Formio, signed on October 17, 1797. The treaty marked the end of hostilities between France and Austria and resulted in significant territorial gains for France. Austria ceded control of the Austrian Netherlands and recognized French annexed territories in Italy. The Italian campaigns were a decisive period in Napoleon's career, showcasing his exceptional military talents and visionary leadership. They transformed him from a promising young general into a national hero and a key political figure in France. The campaigns also had lasting impacts in Italy, promoting ideas of nationalism and republicanism that would influence the future of the region. Napoleon's tactics and organizational reforms during the Italian campaigns set new standards in military strategy. His emphasis on mobility, surprise, and the integration of different military arms influenced military doctrines for generations. His ability to inspire and lead his troops created a loyal and formidable fighting force that would follow him into countless future campaigns. The reforms implemented in the conquered territories laid the foundations for modern governance in Italy. Napoleon's policies of land redistribution, legal equality, and educational improvements had lasting effects, contributing to the rise of nationalism and the eventual unification of Italy in the 19th century. In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte embarked on a bold and ambitious campaign that aimed to attack the heart of British trade routes and establish a French presence in the Middle East. This expedition to Egypt was not just a military undertaking, but also an intellectual and cultural mission, reflecting Napoleon's broad vision and ambition. Although the campaign failed in its main objectives, it had profound and lasting impacts on Egypt, France, and the world at large. Napoleon meticulously prepared for the expedition, assembling a force of approximately 40,000 soldiers and an impressive fleet. The expedition also included a contingent of scholars, scientists, and artists, known as the Commission des Sciences et des Arts. This group of intellectuals was tasked with studying and documenting the natural history, culture, and antiquities of Egypt, highlighting the dual military and scientific nature of the mission. The French fleet departed Toulon on May 19, 1798. Napoleon maintained strict secrecy about the destination to avoid interception by the British Royal Navy. After a brief stop at Malta, where French forces captured the island, the fleet continued towards Egypt. On July 1, 1798, The French army landed near Alexandria, quickly capturing the city. Napoleon then marched his forces towards Cairo, encountering the Mamluk army, which ruled Egypt at the time, near the pyramids of Giza. The Battle of the Pyramids, fought on July 21, 1798, showed Napoleon's tactical brilliance. He deployed his troops in a huge square infantry formation, which proved effective against the Mamluk cavalry. The French victory was decisive, and Cairo soon fell to Napoleon's forces. After victory in the Battle of the Pyramids, Napoleon moved quickly to consolidate French control over Egypt. He implemented administrative reforms designed to modernize the country's governance. He also sought to gain the support of the local population by respecting their customs and religion, even issuing proclamations that emphasized his respect for Islam. While Napoleon enjoyed success on land, the French fleet faced a catastrophic defeat at sea. The British Royal Navy, commanded by Admiral Horatio Nelson, tirelessly pursued the French fleet. On August 1, 1798, Nelson captured the French fleet anchored in Aboukir Bay, leading to the Battle of the Nile. Nelson's aggressive tactics and superior naval skills resulted in a crushing defeat for the French. The British destroyed or captured most of the French ships, cutting off Napoleon's army from supplies and reinforcements. This naval disaster seriously undermined the French position in Egypt and marked a turning point in the campaign. Despite military setbacks, the Egyptian expedition had significant scientific and cultural achievements. The scholars and scientists who accompanied Napoleon conducted extensive research, which resulted in the publication of the monumental Description de l'Egypte, a comprehensive survey of Egyptian history, culture, and natural environment. One of the most notable discoveries was the Rosetta Stone, unearthed in 1799. This artifact, inscribed with the same text in Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic script, proved crucial in deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphics. The work of French scholars laid the foundation for modern Egyptology and significantly advanced the understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization. The intellectual mission of the expedition significantly expanded European knowledge about Egypt and the Middle East in general. The detailed studies and reports produced by the Commission des Sciences et des Arts influenced a wide range of fields, including archaeology, linguistics, and natural sciences. The expedition's discoveries fueled a renewed European interest in ancient civilizations and contributed to the development of Orientalism in art and literature. In early 1799, Napoleon launched a campaign in Syria, hoping to expand French influence and secure additional resources. However, this campaign encountered significant obstacles, including fierce resistance from Ottoman forces and outbreaks of plague among troops. The siege of Acre, an important fortress, ended in failure, forcing Napoleon to retreat to Egypt. In August 1799, the situation in Egypt became untenable. Feeling the need to face the political crisis in France, Napoleon decided to return. Leaving his army under the command of General Jean-Baptiste Kleber, Napoleon and a small entourage set out secretly for France. Upon his return, he found the political landscape ripe for change, leading to the coup of 18 Brumaire and his rise to power as first consul. The Egyptian expedition, despite its military failures, had a profound and lasting impact. It demonstrated Napoleon's ambition and vision, going beyond mere military conquests to encompass scientific and cultural achievements. The expedition's contributions to the fields of Egyptology and Oriental studies were significant, and its influence can still be felt today. The campaign also highlighted the complexities of colonial ambitions and the challenges of imposing foreign rule in a distant land. He highlighted the importance of naval power, as the loss in the Battle of the Nile drastically altered the course of the campaign. The experience in Egypt informed Napoleon's future strategies and policies, particularly with regard to the importance of securing supply lines and maintaining naval superiority. The cultural and intellectual impact of the Egyptian expedition cannot be exaggerated. It brought the wonders of ancient Egypt to the attention of Europe, inspiring generations of scholars, artists, and writers. The artifacts and knowledge brought back by the expedition enriched European museums and academic institutions, promoting a deeper appreciation and understanding of ancient civilizations. Napoleon Bonaparte's rise to power culminated in the dramatic and decisive coup of the 18th Brumaire, 9 November 1799, which overthrew the Directory and established the consulate. The French Directory, created in 1795, was a 5-member committee that governed France after the turmoil of the French Revolution. However, by 1799, it was widely regarded as corrupt, inefficient, and incapable of resolving the pressing issues facing the nation, including economic instability, internal unrest, and external threats from ongoing wars. The Directory faced opposition from several quarters. Royalists sought to restore the monarchy, while Jacobins and other radical groups desired a return to revolutionary principles. Furthermore, the French military, crucial to sustaining the regime, was increasingly disillusioned with the government's failure to adequately support and supply troops. Napoleon's return from the Egyptian campaign in August 1799 added a new dimension to the political scene. His military successes and reputation as a charismatic leader made him a figure of hope for many who were dissatisfied with the Directory. Recognizing the political opportunity, Napoleon quickly aligned himself with influential figures who shared his ambition for change. The coup was meticulously planned and involved several important conspirators, including Emmanuel Joseph Sieyès, a prominent political thinker and member of the Directory, and Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, an experienced diplomat. These allies provided the political acumen and connections necessary for the coup to succeed. Sieyès, who played a key role in the early stages of the French Revolution, sought a strong executive to stabilize France. Talleyrand, with his vast diplomatic experience, recognized the potential of Napoleon's leadership. Both men saw in Napoleon the ability to restore order and pursue his vision of a stable and powerful France. Napoleon understood the importance of ensuring the loyalty of the military. His reputation and personal charisma played a crucial role in gaining the support of key military leaders. Furthermore, he strategically positioned his loyal troops around Paris to ensure control during the crucial moments of the coup. The coup of 18 Brumaire took place over 2 days, marked by a combination of political maneuvers and military action. The plan involved the manipulation of legislative bodies and the security of important locations in Paris. On the morning of 18 Brumaire, Sieyès and Talleyrand convinced the Council of Ancients, one of the legislative bodies, that a Jacobin conspiracy threatened the government. They proposed moving the legislative sessions to Château de Saint-Cloud, away from the supposed danger. The Council of Ancients agreed, and Napoleon was named commander of the Paris garrison, effectively giving him control of the military forces in the city. The following day, the councils met in St. Cloud. Napoleon addressed the Council of 500, the other legislative body, calling for a new government. His speech was poorly received, and chaos ensued when deputies accused him of attempting a coup. Napoleon's brother, Napoleon Bonaparte, who was the president of the Council of 500, intervened, and soldiers loyal to Napoleon forcibly dispersed the assembly. With the legislative bodies effectively neutralized, the conspirators moved quickly to establish a new government. The Directory was dissolved, and a provisional government, the consulate, was formed with Napoleon, Sieyès, and Pierre-Roger Ducos as the initial consuls. This new executive body centralized power and marked the end of the Directory's chaotic government. The coup and the creation of the consulate had immediate and profound effects on France and its political scene. Although there was some resistance, the rapid consolidation of power and the promise of stability helped to mitigate opposition. The French public, tired of constant political instability and economic difficulties, largely supported Napoleon's rise to power. His reputation as a military hero and his promises of reform resonated with a population desperate for change. Internationally, the coup was met with mixed reactions. Although some European powers viewed the situation with suspicion, others hoped that a strong and stable French government would put an end to the revolutionary upheavals that had threatened the continent for a decade. The consulate period, which ran from 1799 to 1804, was a transformative phase in French history, during which Napoleon Bonaparte consolidated his power and implemented sweeping reforms that laid the foundation for modern France. The creation of the consulate marked the end of the Directory and the beginning of a new political order in France. The Year 8 Constitution, adopted in December 1799, created a government that concentrated power in the hands of the first consul, Napoleon, while also providing the appearance of a republican framework. Executive power was vested in 3 consuls, with the first consul holding the greatest authority. Napoleon, as first consul, had the power to appoint ministers, initiate legislation, and command the military. The other 2 consuls, Jean-Jacques Regis de Cambacérès and Charles-François Lebrun, played more consultative roles, supporting Napoleon's decisions, but without significant independent power. Legislative power was divided between several bodies: the Council of State, which wrote legislation; the Tribunate, which debated the proposals; the Legislature, which voted on them; and the Senate, which had the power to review and veto laws. This complex system was designed to prevent the concentration of power in a single legislative entity, although in practice it ensured that Napoleon's policies faced little resistance. One of Napoleon's main objectives during the consulate was to stabilize and revitalize the French economy, which had been seriously disrupted by years of revolutionary turmoil and war. He introduced a series of reforms that restored public confidence and laid the foundation for sustained economic growth. Napoleon created the Bank of France in 1800 to stabilize the currency and provide a reliable source of credit for the government and businesses. The central bank played a crucial role in restoring financial order and promoting economic development. Furthermore, Napoleon reformed the tax system, ensuring more efficient and equitable tax collection, which significantly increased state revenues. Recognizing the importance of infrastructure for economic growth, Napoleon invested in the construction of roads, bridges, and canals, which facilitated trade and communications. He also promoted industrial development by supporting technological innovations and protecting infant industries through tariffs and other measures. Napoleon's most lasting legacy from the period of the consulate was the creation of the Napoleonic Code, also known as the Civil Code of 1804. The code consolidated and standardized French laws, replacing the patchwork of feudal and revolutionary laws with a coherent legal framework. He emphasized the principles of equality before the law, property rights, and the secular nature of the state. The Napoleonic Code not only influenced French society, but also served as a model for legal systems in many other countries. In 1802, Napoleon founded the lycées, state secondary schools designed to educate the children of the middle class and prepare them for military or civil service. The curriculum focused on classical education, the sciences, and military training, reflecting Napoleon's emphasis on discipline and public service. Napoleon also reorganized higher education, establishing specialized institutions such as the École Polytechnique and the École Normale Supérieure. These institutions trained engineers, scientists, and teachers who would contribute to the administrative and industrial modernization of France. Napoleon was a patron of the arts and sought to use culture to increase the legitimacy of his regime. He supported the arts through commissions and public works, such as the Arc de Triomphe and the beautification of Paris. He also reorganized cultural institutions, including the Louvre, to promote French art and history. Napoleon's political acumen was evident in his ability to consolidate power and eliminate opposition while maintaining the appearance of republican governance. Napoleon used a combination of censorship, propaganda, and political repression to suppress opposition. He controlled the press, restricted political activity, and used the police to monitor and eliminate dissent. Political opponents, including Jacobins and monarchists, were co-opted into the regime or neutralized through exile and imprisonment. Napoleon cultivated a personal image as the savior of France, using propaganda and public ceremonies to increase his prestige. He commissioned portraits, statues, and public monuments that portrayed him as a heroic and benevolent leader. This cult of personality helped solidify his authority and gain popular support. Although the consulate period focused on internal stabilization, Napoleon also pursued an active foreign policy aimed at securing France's position in Europe. In 1802, Napoleon negotiated the Treaty of Amiens with Great Britain, temporarily ending hostilities and bringing a brief period of peace to Europe. This allowed Napoleon to consolidate his power at home and pursue his reforms without the distraction of war. Despite the peace, Napoleon continued to expand French influence through diplomatic and military means. He reorganized territories annexed during the Revolution and created satellite states ruled by his allies and family. This expansion increased his control over Europe and spread the principles of the French Revolution. The consulate period prepared the ground for Napoleon's eventual proclamation as Emperor of the French in 1804. The stability and reforms he introduced gained widespread support and admiration, both among the French population and the political elite. To legitimize his assumption of imperial power, Napoleon held a plebiscite in 1804, asking the French people to approve his elevation to emperor. The measure's overwhelming support reflected the public's desire for stability and strong leadership. On December 2, 1804, Napoleon crowned himself emperor in a sumptuous ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, marking the end of the consulate and the beginning of the First French Empire. The transition from consulate to empire marked a significant change in Napoleon Bonaparte's government and in the history of France. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French, symbolizing the consolidation of his power and the culmination of his ambitious political vision. The move from the consulate to the empire was a carefully orchestrated process, driven both by Napoleon's ambition and the political realities of the time. The French population, tired of instability and eager for strong leadership, largely supported this change. In 1804, Napoleon effectively neutralized political opposition and centralized authority. His reforms and military successes earned him the loyalty of the army and the support of the bourgeoisie. The administrative efficiency and stability he brought to France further solidified his position. The Senate, a legislative body created by the Constitution of Year 8, played a crucial role in the transition to the empire. On May 18, 1804, the Senate passed a resolution proclaiming Napoleon Emperor of the French. This decision was framed as a response to ongoing threats to the Republic, with the Senate arguing that a hereditary monarchy would provide the stability and continuity necessary for the nation's security and prosperity. The coronation was attended by a number of important figures, including Pope Pius VII, who played a significant, albeit secondary, role in the ceremony. By inviting the Pope, Napoleon sought to obtain the support of the Church and reinforce the legitimacy of his government. However, in a dramatic assertion of independence, Napoleon crowned himself, placing the crown on his own head before crowning his wife, Josephine, as empress. The ceremony itself was lavish, with elaborate decorations, music and rituals designed to impress domestic and foreign observers. The event combined elements of Catholic liturgy with revolutionary iconography, highlighting Napoleon's ability to blend different traditions to create a new imperial identity. After the coronation, Napoleon focused on consolidating and expanding his empire. His domestic policies and military campaigns aimed to strengthen his control over France and extend his influence across Europe. Napoleon continued to refine and centralize the administrative structure of the state. He expanded the role of mayors, ensuring that his policies were effectively implemented across France. The creation of a merit-based civil service further professionalized the administration and guaranteed loyalty to the emperor. Based on the foundations laid during the consulate, Napoleon expanded his legal and educational reforms. The Napoleonic Code further consolidated itself as the basis of French law, and new educational institutions were created to promote scientific and technical education, essential for the development of the empire. Napoleon's economic policies aimed at self-sufficiency and modernization. He promoted infrastructure projects, such as roads and canals, to facilitate trade and communication. The Continental System, a blockade against British goods, was implemented to weaken Britain's economy and protect French industries, although it had mixed results and led to significant economic hardship in some regions. The establishment of the empire was accompanied by a series of military campaigns aimed at expanding French influence and securing the empire's borders. Napoleon's military genius and the strength of the Grande Armée were crucial in these endeavors. In response to Napoleon's coronation and expansionist policies, Britain, Austria, Russia, and other European powers formed the Third Coalition in 1805. Napoleon responded with a series of brilliant military campaigns, culminating in the decisive Battle of Austerlitz on December 2, 1805, exactly 1 year after his coronation. The victory at Austerlitz, often considered Napoleon's greatest military achievement, solidified his reputation as a military leader and secured French dominance in Europe. Following his victories, Napoleon reorganized the German states into the Confederation of the Rhine, effectively dissolving the Holy Roman Empire and creating a buffer zone against Austria and Prussia. This reorganization extended French influence into Central Europe and further consolidated Napoleon's control over the continent. Napoleon's establishment of the empire also involved creating a new imperial court and promoting cultural policies that reinforced his rule. Napoleon established an elaborate court modeled on those of the ancient Roman emperors and the former French monarchy. He created new titles of nobility and surrounded himself with a loyal aristocracy, many of whom were drawn from the ranks of the military and the bourgeoisie. This new nobility helped to stabilize his regime and provided a framework for governance. Napoleon was a great patron of the arts and used cultural patronage to promote his image and the ideals of the empire. He commissioned works of art, literature, and music that celebrated his achievements and glorified the empire. The revival of classical styles and the emphasis on grandeur and heroism in the arts reflected the values Napoleon sought to instill in French society. The Napoleonic Wars, which lasted from 1803 to 1815, were a series of major conflicts involving Napoleon's French Empire and various European coalitions. These wars were marked by significant military campaigns, territorial expansions, and shifting alliances, fundamentally reshaping Europe. The Napoleonic Wars had their roots in the broader context of the French Revolutionary Wars, which had already involved France in conflict with much of Europe. Napoleon's ambition, combined with the geopolitical tensions of the time, set the stage for a protracted war. The French Revolution dramatically altered the political landscape of Europe, challenging traditional monarchies and spreading revolutionary ideals. France's aggressive foreign policy and territorial expansion during the revolutionary period had already created deep animosities with neighboring states. Napoleon's personal ambition for glory and dominance played a critical role in the outbreak of the Napoleonic Wars. His desire to expand French territory and influence, combined with his military prowess, led him to challenge and destabilize the established European order. The formation of several coalitions against France was a direct response to Napoleon's expansionist policies. Countries such as Great Britain, Austria, Prussia, and Russia repeatedly joined forces to counter French rule, leading to a series of conflicts as each coalition sought to control Napoleon's power. The Napoleonic Wars consisted of numerous battles and campaigns across Europe, each with significant implications for the balance of power on the continent. The Battle of Austerlitz, fought on December 2, 1805, is often considered Napoleon's greatest military victory. Facing the combined forces of Russia and Austria, Napoleon's strategic brilliance and the Grand Army's disciplined execution of his plans led to a decisive victory, effectively dismantling the Third Coalition. In October 1806, Napoleon's forces crushed the Prussian army in the twin battles of Jena and Auerstedt. These victories demonstrated the superiority of Napoleon's tactics and the effectiveness of his corps system, leading to the rapid occupation of Prussia. In June 1807, Napoleon defeated the Russian army at the Battle of Friedland. This victory forced Tsar Alexander I to seek peace, resulting in the Treaty of Tilsit. The treaty significantly altered the map of Europe, with Prussia losing territory and Russia becoming an uneasy ally of France. The Peninsular War began with Napoleon's decision to invade Spain and Portugal to impose the continental system, an economic blockade against Great Britain. However, the occupation faced strong resistance from Spanish and Portuguese forces, supported by British troops under the command of Arthur Wellesley, future Duke of Wellington. The Peninsular War was marked by brutal guerrilla warfare, with Spanish and Portuguese insurgents using hit-and-run tactics against French forces. The prolonged conflict drained French resources and tied up significant numbers of troops, contributing to the weakening of Napoleon's military power. In 1809, Austria launched a renewed effort to challenge French rule, resulting in the War of the Fifth Coalition. The crucial Battle of Wagram in July 1809 saw Napoleon achieve a hard-fought victory over Austrian forces. The subsequent Treaty of Schönbrunn further consolidated French territorial gains in Europe. In 1812, Napoleon embarked on his most ambitious and ultimately disastrous campaign, the invasion of Russia. Leading the largest army ever assembled at that time, the Grand Army, Napoleon intended to force Russia to return to obedience to the continental system. The Battle of Borodino, fought on September 7, 1812, was one of the bloodiest single-day battles of the Napoleonic Wars. Although Napoleon emerged victorious, the high casualties and the Russian army's retreat into the interior left the French forces overextended. The occupation of Moscow proved Pyrrhic as the Russians employed scorched earth tactics, and the onset of winter forced Napoleon to order a retreat. The retreat from Moscow turned into a catastrophic disaster, with the Grand Army suffering devastating losses from cold, starvation, and constant harassment by Russian forces. The Battle of Leipzig, also known as the Battle of Nations, was fought in October 1813 and involved the largest coalition force assembled against Napoleon. The defeat at Leipzig marked a significant turning point, as it led to the collapse of French control in Germany and paved the way for the invasion of France. In early 1814, coalition forces invaded France from multiple directions. Despite a series of brilliant defensive maneuvers by Napoleon, the overwhelming numbers and coordination of the coalition troops led to the capture of Paris in March 1814. Napoleon's military success was largely due to his innovative strategies and tactics, which revolutionized warfare during the early 9th century. Napoleon's introduction of the corps system, where each corps functioned as a semi-independent unit capable of operating on its own while being part of a larger army, allowed for greater flexibility and rapid maneuvering. This system enabled him to concentrate his forces effectively at critical points on the battlefield. Speed and the element of surprise were central to Napoleon's military philosophy. He often employed rapid marches to outflank and surprise his enemies, achieving decisive victories before they could fully mobilize or coordinate their forces. Napoleon's centralized command structure ensured that he maintained control over his forces, allowing for quick decision-making and adaptability. His ability to coordinate complex operations and his insistence on clear communication lines were key factors in his battlefield successes. The Napoleonic Wars had profound and lasting effects on Europe and the wider world, reshaping political boundaries and influencing future military and political developments. The wars resulted in significant territorial changes across Europe. The dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire, the creation of the Confederation of the Rhine, and the reorganization of Italy were direct consequences of Napoleon's campaigns. These changes laid the groundwork for the eventual unification of Germany and Italy later in the 19th century. Napoleon's conquest spread the principles of the French Revolution, including legal equality, secular governance, and administrative reforms, throughout Europe. The Napoleonic Code, in particular, influenced legal systems in many countries, promoting the ideas of a modern, centralized state. The Napoleonic Wars introduced significant military innovations, from the corps system to the use of mass conscription. These changes influenced military tactics and organization in Europe and beyond, setting the stage for the modern warfare of the 19th and 20th centuries. The fall and exile of Napoleon Bonaparte marks one of the most dramatic and significant turning points in European history. After years of unprecedented military dominance and success, a combination of strategic errors, coalition pressures, and internal challenges led to their ultimate defeat. The seeds of Napoleon's downfall were sown by the vast scope of his ambitions and the relentless expansion of his empire. The strain of ongoing war, economic challenges, and growing resistance across Europe gradually weakened his position. In 1812, Napoleon launched an invasion of Russia, a campaign that would prove disastrous for his grand army. Initially numbering more than 600,000 soldiers, the army suffered logistical failures, adverse weather conditions, and fierce Russian resistance. The withdrawal from Moscow decimated French forces, with only a fraction of the original army managing to return to France. This catastrophic loss significantly weakened Napoleon's military power and emboldened his enemies. In the aftermath of the Russian campaign, the Sixth Coalition was formed, consisting of Great Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, Sweden, Spain, and several German states. In 1813, coalition forces launched coordinated offensives against Napoleon, leading to a series of crucial battles. The Battle of Leipzig, fought from October 16 to 19, 1813, also known as the Battle of the Nations, was the largest battle of the Napoleonic Wars. Facing a coalition army almost twice the size of his own, Napoleon's forces were decisively defeated. This loss marked a turning point, as it led to the collapse of the Confederation of the Rhine and opened the way for the coalition to invade France. In 1812, Napoleon launched an invasion of Russia, a campaign that would prove disastrous for his grand army. Initially numbering more than 600,000 soldiers, the army suffered logistical failures, adverse weather conditions, and fierce Russian resistance. The withdrawal from Moscow decimated French forces, with only a fraction of the original army managing to return to France. This catastrophic loss significantly weakened Napoleon's military power and emboldened his enemies. In the aftermath of the Russian campaign, the Sixth Coalition was formed, consisting of Great Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, Sweden, Spain, and several German states. In 1813, coalition forces launched coordinated offensives against Napoleon, leading to a series of crucial battles. The Battle of Leipzig, fought from October 16 to 19, 1813, also known as the Battle of the Nations, was the largest battle of the Napoleonic Wars. Facing a coalition army almost twice the size of his own, Napoleon's forces were decisively defeated. This loss marked a turning point, as it led to the collapse of the Confederation of the Rhine and opened the way for the coalition to invade France. In early 1814, coalition forces invaded France from several fronts. Despite a series of skillful defensive battles, Napoleon was unable to stop the advance of the vastly superior coalition armies. Paris fell to coalition forces in March 1814, marking the end of Napoleon's reign. Facing internal political pressure and the loss of support from his marshals, Napoleon was forced to abdicate. On April 11, 1814, Napoleon signed the Treaty of Fontainebleau, formally abdicating the throne. The treaty granted him sovereignty over the island of Elba, located in the Mediterranean, and allowed him to maintain the title of emperor. Napoleon arrived at Elba on May 4, 1814. Despite the island's small size, he took his role as ruler seriously. implementing administrative and economic reforms, improving infrastructure, and maintaining a small military force. However, the island's isolation and diminishing influence weighed heavily on him. Meanwhile, in France, the restored Bourbon monarchy under Louis XVIII struggled to maintain stability and legitimacy. The monarchy's attempts to reverse many of the revolutionary and Napoleonic reforms led to widespread dissatisfaction and unrest. Napoleon's return to France, known as the 100 Days, was a brief but dramatic episode that reignited conflict in Europe and culminated in his final defeat. On February 26, 1815, Napoleon escaped Elba and sailed back to France with a small group of loyal followers. He landed near Cannes on March 1 and began his march towards Paris. As Napoleon advanced, he gathered support from the military and the population. The troops sent to arrest him joined his cause, and on March 20, 1815, Napoleon entered Paris to regain his throne. Louis XVIII fled, and Napoleon's return was met with broad popular support. In response to Napoleon's return, the Seventh Coalition was formed, consisting of Great Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, and several other European powers. Determined to finally end his government, the coalition mobilized its forces for a decisive confrontation. The Battle of Waterloo, fought on June 18, 1815, was the final and conclusive battle of the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon assembled an army and moved into Belgium to confront the coalition forces. His strategy aimed to divide and conquer the British and Prussian armies before they could fully unite. The battle took place near the village of Waterloo in present-day Belgium. Napoleon faced the Duke of Wellington's British forces and a Prussian army under Gebhard Leberecht von Blücher. Despite initial successes, Napoleon's forces were ultimately overwhelmed by the combined strength of the coalition armies. The defeat at Waterloo marked the end of Napoleon's rule. His forces were decisively beaten, and the remnants of his army retreated in disarray. Napoleon returned to Paris, where he was met with political disillusionment and calls for his abdication. On June 22, 1815, Napoleon abdicated for the second time. Seeking asylum, he surrendered to the British and was transported to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic, where he would spend the remainder of his life. St. Helena was a harsh and isolated exile for Napoleon. The island's remote location and rugged terrain ensured that escape was impossible. Napoleon lived in Longwood House, where his health deteriorated over the years. Despite his physical decline, he continued to write, dictating his memoirs and reflecting on his life and career. Napoleon died on May 5, 1821 on St. Helena. The exact cause of his death has been the subject of debate, with theories ranging from stomach cancer to poisoning. Regardless of the circumstances, his death marked the end of an era.